I want to get your thoughts on the comments from our first and our last speaker. Ibrahim mentioned we've got to go from leasing boxes to being a space curator. And I liked what he had to say, but you're in the business. Is that just naive idealism and nice words, or is it a realistic strategy for a company like Majid Al Futtaim Lifestyle?
I dare argue that we're already implementing that today. So, Majid Al Futtaim was started in 2003 as a springboard to present brands into the region. But very, very soon we found that we're not really having the right impact that we'd like to deliver in the region. So we embarked 5 years ago on a transformation journey, on digital transformation, on cultural transformation, and on CX transformation, exactly bringing what the speakers were talking about today. Because I think the competition is higher, and the relevance might be lost if we're not able to adapt as quick to the consumer needs and demands in the region. And they're quite savvy. They're well-traveled. They compare us to the best concepts in the world, right? A lot of my customers tell me, we saw this in LA or in Milan, and they expect the same or better. So, our competition is global, not local.
And talk to me about the organization and how the dynamic works. Because obviously, Majid Al Futtaim owns a lot of shopping centers. This is the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers. So you are both landlord and tenant with the brands that I mentioned here, and there are many more I could have mentioned. You
Absolutely.
are a tenant with other landlords. How does that dynamic work?
Well, it's an arm's length. So, I actually pay the same rent like all the other competitors in the market.
Do we believe him?
Honestly, it's much harder for me to negotiate leases in Mall of the Emirates than in Red Sea Mall. I know that when I speak with our colleagues, they say, well, Fahad, you understand, there's so much demand. We have LVMH group wanting more space, Kering group wanting more space. And I say, well, I need my space. So there is a actual arm's length, and we actually earn every square meter. So we compete in terms of making sure that what we add to the mall is actually relevant and value accretive rather than taking away from that value.
And so in terms of the points that some of our speakers have made today about the fact that I'm paraphrasing,
yes,
but the need for placemaking, the need for experiences. When you as a tenant, when you're going to Red Sea Mall or Mall of the Emirates,
yes,
genuinely how important is this? Or how do you factor that into your rational discussions with your team when you're looking at the price per square foot you're being quoted, the place in the mall that
yes,
you're being offered?
Well, basically it's a relationship. It's a true partnership where in every mall that we take space, we want to make sure that we're good tenants. And what good tenants do is we don't complain about no traffic. We help in creating that traffic and bringing that relevance and capturing new customer segments into the mall. So, case to point, Lululemon, we're engaging with all the communities in every market that we went. So Lululemon, we were working with Lulu as a traditional brand, and it was quite small. The minute we approached Lulu with a completely different mindset, we grew 10x in the last 3 years.
10x?
10x. Made my board very happy, got more capex, and we're actually rolling out more stores across the region. I'll give you an example. So, the last speaker spoke about going beyond transactional, and you have to do that. So in every store, we recruit local ambassadors. So when we went to Riyadh, we launched Riyadh. I was very happy to launch Riyadh. I was the ambassador for the kingdom for at least 1.5 years to convince Lululemon to come to Riyadh that it's a future. Finally, they accepted, and I'm happy that we've launched 4 stores. But we immediately started engaging with the local communities. So we had a run club that went up the Faisaliya stairs. And we were the first to gain access because it was a no-access zone. But through our leverage, we created all those communities and activated the brand to add value, go beyond that transactional relationship. Last week, We had an event for World Mental Health Week, and we had more than 2,000 from our community members in Qatar, Kuwait, UAE, and Saudi Arabia. So that relationship, it's key for retention. It's key for us to listen and make sure that we curate the collection. We buy slightly differently between Riyadh and Jeddah. It's cooler in Riyadh, and people go more to the sea and the beach in Riyadh. So the curation of the collection cannot just be stereotypical and rolled out like a cookie-cutter approach.
We've only got a few minutes, so I'm going to do rapid-fire questions.
Yes.
Saudi Arabia, of course, a country you know well. Just briefly remind us your experience in Saudi Arabia, and then the opportunity over the next 5 years in Saudi Arabia, but how you capitalize on that. We know the macro story, but how do you capitalize on that?
Well, I lived in Saudi for 4 years, and I've seen a lot of companies fail and succeed. And the only tip I have is you don't manage Saudi with the mentality of Dubai or Kuwait or Qatar. You have to manage it from inside. You have to understand the locals. You have to connect with them, and not over the weekend, and not in the hotel lobbies, right? It's really understanding the cultures across the different cities and building those relationships, because Saudis helped me very much understand their culture. So there is that welcoming and partnership model. It's just you have to lean into it. So that really actually helped us. When I joined Majid Al Futtaim and we launched, I had a lot of help from our Saudi friends who helped us grow, and we continued that growth journey. Case to point, a lot of the gentlemen in this room today.
This event has always been very popular with our friends from Saudi Arabia. What's your approach to second and third tier retail destinations, maybe even fourth tier retail destinations? Of course, Dubai Mall of the Emirates speak for themselves. How do you approach that?
Well, basically, the only filter we apply is that customer lens. So, we heard AI and the metaverse. So it's not AI driven or it's not data driven. It's all customer driven with the help of AI and the metaverse. So whatever would help that business grow and flourish, we need to follow that lens. So part of our transformation was really collecting data. So in Majid Al Futtaim today we have more than 40 million golden customer records. We're collecting data and able to present the brands closer to the customer. Psycho Bunny was a brand that we brought to the region. We just opened in Mall of the Emirates. And it was the locals who pointed me to Psycho Bunny saying, we're buying a lot from LA, can you please bring it to the region? When we did that research, we actually found the relevance and we brought it to the market. So in every market, in every mall, there is a customer who wants something. You need to bring him the relevant product and the relevant experience. Otherwise, it will be a difficult conversation between the retailer and the landlord, because you're trying to fix a problem that you created in the first place for not listening to your customers in that area. So follow the customer, and then the money will follow.
To what extent is it down to you to create these experiences? And the obvious example is Majid Al Futtaim and the ski slope.
Yes.
I mean, I would argue that was a game changer for the global shopping mall industry to put such a spectacular attraction in there. Maybe I'm over-egging the pudding, but it was a big moment, and it worked, and people still talk about it. But your Majid Al Futtaim lifestyle, you represent brands.
Correct.
To what extent is it your job to work with shopping mall owners to create these experiences, or are you're just a tenant leasing space?
No, it's so our purpose and vision is clear: creating great moments for everyone, every day. And that means you need to collaborate with the malls to make sure that you're creating those great moments. You're not just selling products, you're actually creating experiences that will add to the community and add value to the market. For example, Lego was a brand that was suffering for quite a while. And when I took it over, I was looking at the numbers. First, it was overpriced. So they were selling the region at a premium. And we had a hard discussion with Lego saying, we can't take our customers for fools. We have to give them the right price. The minute we fixed the price, it flipped. Then we had difficulty bringing the customers into the stores. And we found that our store concept was outdated. So we launched Store of the Future, and it was one of the first top 10 in the world that we brought it into the region. So bringing the latest concepts, whether it is Lego, Shiseido, or our concept store, where we again listened a lot to the customers and brought a lot of experiential and new brands into the market.
And what's the investment there? Okay, it's great that you do that, fine, but it's not cost-free. Is it a capex? Is it investing in staff who are more entertainers? How do you break down the costs of that when you're justifying that investment?
We'll have to, if I have to choose one thing, it's people. So getting the right talent and then empowering that talent. Because a lot of us get excellent talent from the region, and then we tell them what to do. You know, we only want to listen to the voices in our head. You need to empower this talent, and in many cases, it's very young talent. Digital was an area that I knew, not much about. So I had to be okay with hiring young millennials and allowing them to do what they can do, and this has drove us through our digital transformation. So it's talent, and then they will guide you in terms of what experience to do, how to connect with the customer, what data to do, and how to take the right decisions.
But in terms of the floor plate, and I'm thinking of the comment that Ibrahim made in the previous presentation, and he talked about, I loved his slide about, it's about experiences per square meter, it's about surprises per square meter,
Correct.
And that's fine. But you're paying for those square meters. When you and your team make the decision, okay, we've got X square meters in a mall in Jeddah or Kuwait
Yes.
City, whatever it is, you've got to make a decision about if you're going to have, a big area like this, that's just an experience, not selling anything. That's a cost, isn't it? How do you make those decisions with your team?
It's data-driven.
Mm-hmm.
So we review every activity that we do, and we collect the data on that. So for example, home was a suffering category for a while. And we wanted to try new things, and our marketing said, let's do more experiential, let's engage the community. So we started with master classes on decor, on table setup, on Ramadan setup, on Christmas, whatever it might be. And then we measured the retention of those customers and then transaction. So the payoff and the ROI is actually quite high. So all our decision has to go back to, insightful, using data for insights. It's not about just collecting data. It's using it for insights that will guide your next decision in terms of what is the right size, what is the right experience. And you have to have the bravery to fail fast, admit when you're wrong, and learn. So that agility to continue adapting your concept is important. My first Crate and Barrel in Riyadh wasn't a success in the first couple of months.
Which one?
Crate and Barrel in Riyadh, because it took us a while to calibrate. After 6 or 7 months, we saw a 300% increase. So again, listening to the customers, listening to the team on the ground, getting that data helps you iterate and fix. It's hard to get it right the first time, which is fine, as long as you learn and you adapt quickly.
And in terms of negotiating with landlords, and there are a lot of landlords. And who's here is a landlord? Oh, yes, we got quite a lot. What? This is the Middle East Council of Shopping Centres and Retailers. Probably more of the former than the latter. What's your message to them? Your wish list? We've got about 1 minute left.
Well, it's simply to collaborate. It has to be win-win. It's not about getting a prime space if we don't deserve it. It's about bringing that collaboration and focusing on what is most relevant to customers. And then, there is no conversation in 2 years of somebody saying, I'm not performing, how can I help, or complain about the traffic. It's a partnership that we can fix. And actually, we've partnered very well with a lot of our fellow colleagues in this room to address those issues and turn around multiple situations. So, more collaboration, more openness, more transparency, working together, and making a difference in the region together.